So if you're wondering what that thing is on the thumbnail of this video, that would be the owner of the Washington Mystics of the WNBA team, Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson, or part of the ownership group, I guess you could say. Kind of like the Atlanta Hawks owner, Renee Montgomery, who I've spoken at length about, and her fake activism. Sheila Johnson has come out to criticize the fact that Caitlin Clark was named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. I was wondering when this was going to happen. There's been a lot of backlash about this article. There's been a lot of backlash towards Caitlin Clark and the things she has said in this article, mentioning white privilege, which again is just a huge slap in the face to everybody that's white and has accomplished anything. It's just one of those things it really does hit home. So a lot of people have been extremely critical when it comes to that. And now she's starting to get it from the other side too, which I expected. Part of me wondered if they would rally around her with everybody, you know, with the other side kind of going up against her saying, okay, you really went places you shouldn't have gone, talking about white privilege, talking about, the need to elevate black women in just a general sense, like, okay, why just them? How about the people that are the most deserving, no matter what color they are? Content of the character thing. But nope, they're here they come once again saying she should not be on the cover. I know Cheryl Swoops already had something to say, but every time Caitlin Clark breathes, Cheryl Swoops has something to say about Caitlin and denouncing oxygen for existing and for allowing Caitlin to exist. And by the way, the reason I picked this picture of her for the thumbnail, I was sitting next to my 8-year-old stepson trying to find a picture for this thumbnail. And he looked at this particular one, he pointed at it, he goes, "That's Kim Jong Un." So I had to do that. So Sheila Johnson, Jong Un, is. Anyways, yeah, she's co-founder of BET, which should tell you about everything you need to know, to be honest with you. But she went on CNN and said that they shouldn't have put just Caitlin Clark on there. They should have put the whole league. Once again, saying that the league's been building for this for a long, long time, and I love the way they're trying to spin that narrative now because, like I said, the WNBA has existed for a long, long time, back to the early '90s, and it's just now starting to have anything resembling momentum. Lost money every single year, never been taken remotely seriously. Of course, Sheila Johnson says, "Well, something clicked this year." Yeah, it's called number 22 for the Indiana Fever, but that's whatever, I guess. But I was got to thinking too, how you can put the entire WNBA on there. I mean, granted, there's only 12 teams, which again is not good. And that's another point that I just cannot hammer home enough. The WNBA is not in good shape, even with Caitlin Clark. At least with Caitlin Clark now, they have a bright light for the future. This league's in bad shape. 12 teams, like I said, teams like her team that play in a 5,000 seat arena, 4,000 seat arena, I think. Atlanta plays in a 3,300 seat arena, like I've talked about ad nauseum. Them and Washington both moved to the NBA arena, which is anywhere from 17 to 20,000, depending on which arena we're talking about. And they fill it up twice a year for Caitlin when she comes to town. And once again, she has waited until after Caitlin filled up that arena twice and put a lot of extra money in her pocket, and now speaking out against her and the fans, the attention she's getting, even though it's I don't understand. I just don't understand why they are so against her, so against this attention she's getting, so against everything. I mean, this is helping you guys. This is your first time ever, and you're trying to spin this. Of course, she had to mention Angel Reese, saying it's not just Caitlin, it's Reese, which, by the way, without Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese is nothing. She does not have game at all. Even her rebounds overrated. I would venture to say Caitlin Clark is better rebounding as a point guard, does a better job of rebounding as a point guard than Angel does as a person in the middle, as a front court person. That's just me. And they just absolutely cannot get behind anything that's actually going to help this league. They can't handle it, and I don't understand it. Again, it just shows you. I mean, again, I'll say it again. To me, it just shows you why socialism doesn't work, and it just shows you why this league's in such bad shape. They've never had to. Not only have they never turned a profit, they never had to. They never had to try. And Lily's going to explain that to us, aren't you, Lily? I mean, they never had to try to turn anything resembling a profit. They've never had to answer to a consumer in any real way. There's just a lot of stuff they've never had to do, and it's showing off now. And you realize, gosh, this is just a trash league overall. And I'll still say that Time Magazine article was an indictment more on the WNBA than anything. But it's a league that starts up top between the commissioner and the owners. There's just nobody in this league that you can look at and say, well, gosh, I don't understand why nothing's gone well for them. You understand exactly why nothing's gone well for them. So that's, like I said, a lot makes sense. I always figured this league had to be pretty bad for it to be in the condition it's in for a long, long time. And Terrell's is even in worse condition than even I realized. And the fact they're defending it and wanting to stay that way. They need an overhaul. They need a complete overhaul. This Sheila Johnson interview really nails that home. And for Caitlin Clark, she is getting it from both sides now. And I knew she would. Obviously, the white privilege comment for her fans was going to go over horribly. I probably defended it the most of anybody. And even I said, it wasn't a good comment. And I said she probably doesn't believe it. Thinking back on it, I mean, she might believe it because that's what everybody, she loves this league. And why she loves it when it does not love her back, I do not know. But, this league is very, very woke, activist-based, and basically lives and dies by this idea of white privilege. And anything good that ever happens to anybody white's because we have privilege, supposedly. And it has nothing to do with merit, and the reason that, the majority of the black and not straight people in the league that have never succeeded in capturing the public's imagination, the way Caitlin Clark has, who is white and straight, is because of their privilege. They are stuck in this, they're stuck in the past, and you really heard that in Sheila Johnson's interview. She's just, saying, we need all these women of color to be on there. Well, whether it's women of color, whether it's white women, all the people that have played in the WNBA, nobody in 27 years, and there's been a mixture of just about everybody, has captured any type of attention. And Kim Jong Un, Sheila Johnson needs to understand that. Put the whole WNBA on there. The WNBA is a monument to failure. It's a monument to what happens when you're put on welfare and you just get to the point where you're like, I'm just going to be on welfare. I've earned this $10 million a year to exist. And that's the thing. You get those entitlements, and not only are you failing, not only are you a failure, but you have these entitlements. That just doesn't work. And now, like I said, poor Caitlin, she's going to get it from everywhere now. And like I said, I'm not here to invalidate anybody's feelings. I mean, like I said in my initial video, which is probably the least critical of her in that interview video that you'll find. Even I said, I don't think she believes this stuff and she runs the risk of being seen as inauthentic. Well, it's actually be worse than that. We're done. Like I said, there's facts and there's feelings. I gave my feelings in that video. My feelings were, I don't think she believes this. I think she's trying to, throw a bone, try to make the WNBA not look so bad, which that blew up in her face. I think she's trying to, gain a little favor with the people in the WNBA. That blew up in her face, unfortunately. You gotta look at this Time Magazine article as a disaster for her. It's only been, I think it's been less than a week since it came out, or maybe it's been a week. I don't know when it came out, but it has, there's just nothing good that's come from it. I really can't think of anything good. I can't think of anybody outside of Time Magazine, of course, who's had anything good to say about it, and its reception has been received poorly by everybody, and now she's going to start getting it from the other side, too. Kind of reminds me of the Dixie Chicks. I don't know if anybody remembers them or not, but for those of you old like me and remember them, they were one of those first crossover bands in the late 90s and early 2000s who, went from being a country and western music band to, adding a lot of pop influences and crossing over, kind of Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift. Only it was a band. It was three of them, the Dixie Chicks. And unlike Taylor Swift, they actually touched on some serious topics and real life topics like domestic violence. But in March of 2003, which by the way was 18 months after 9/11, right as our invasion of Iraq began, they were at a show in another country, in England, London, saying that they did not approve of the war, which, it's not what you really want to say in another country, at that time. And they also said they're ashamed of our president at the time, which was George W. Bush. Now, obviously, in retrospect, looking back, he was not a good president, but and that war was a horribly planned and not well thought out. We should have just gone in there with the old mindset of that we used to have in war, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, to go to another country and say that you're ashamed of that, that's not going to do you any good, especially especially at that time. That was a very, very sensitive time for us. Patriotism was at an all-time high. Like I said, just a year and a half removed from those terrorist attacks. Not smart. So they got canned big time. They got so much heat. The country crowd just completely abandoned them, boycotted them. They couldn't even play a show in Texas for a long, long time. And like I said, they just basically spent 15 years in irrelevance, and they kind of started to come back towards the end of the 2010s. They started to make a comeback. I guess people, forgave, forgot, moved on, had 15 million other things they're pissed off about. And, they did a song with Taylor Swift. They're starting to, do songs with people and coming back. And, well, then 2020 happened. And, of course, all this wokeism, and then people came after them. They had to change their name. They had to drop the Dixie part. Now they're just the Chicks, because God forbid they have anything to do with the South. Everything associated with the Old South had to go. Lady Antebellum, that band, they had to drop Antebellum and just become Lady A, which is the stupidest thing ever. And of course the Dixie Chicks gave in. Further research of them shows that they were basically woke before woke, just unnecessarily, obnoxiously woke before woke, denouncing patriotism, saying, why do you have to be patriotic, and da-da-da-da-da, and yeah, that's a good way to win your fan base over. But, so of course they happily did that, but I remember thinking about it, because I didn't really know much about them at the time. I remember the comments, and in 2020, that was some 17 years later, and, now they're getting it from the left. After getting it from the right for so long, now they get it from the left because they're called the Dixie Chicks. The Dixie part, I remember saying if I was them, I'm like, no, I can't please none of y'all. Everybody kiss my ass. Why don't you? Like, if I was them, I'd have to say that. Like, goodness gracious, what do we have to do? Of course, like I said, looking back at them now, doing a little bit of research for this video, I have no sympathy for them, but that's just me. But I kind of feel like Caitlin Clark's getting that now, and I wonder if she's ever going to have a kiss my ass moment where she's like, all right, I can't please anybody. She does have to figure out, I don't know how this article came about. I don't know who her handlers are in the situation, if it's an agency she's with, or who her agent is and who her public relations agent is. But she needs to find some new ones, because there's literally nothing good that's come from this. Um, I mean, there's nobody that's going to read this and say, nobody has read this and said, wow, this is this is a good thing. It's been nothing but criticism from all sides, and now she's going to start getting it from the WNBA people. And I knew she would, because it's never enough. She said, first of all, she said, I've earned everything, which is a big no-no for any white person ever to say for a league like the WNBA. And then she said, as a white person, there is privilege. Well, that's not nearly enough for them. They're always going to say, no, that's not enough. I mean, I go back to Asia Wilson browbeating Kelsey Plum at the Final Four earlier this year. So, her looking at Kelsey Plum saying, I appreciate the fact that, you understand you're only here because of your privilege. So, they've had this conversation before. And, Kelsey Plum has definitely said something about white privilege, either in private or possibly publicly. I haven't looked it up, so I don't know what Kelsey Plum has or hasn't said. I have no respect for her at all for sitting there and listening to it. But even after that, she still has to sit there and get browbeat by Asia publicly. And that's just how it goes. It's never enough. And it's time to blow it up. It's time to completely rebrand. It's time for them to get some leadership up top in the WNBA that's going to be able to take the mainstream. They have to denounce these people like Renee Montgomery and Sheila Johnson and Kim Jong Un. Oh, sorry, they're the same person. Sorry, Sheila Johnson. They need to look them and actually start finding these people, find out how much extra money they made with the 2 games in the NBA arenas, and say, nope, that's going to us. If you don't like it, well, you don't like the money from it either. And it's just time for them to make a lot of decisions to get this league where it is somewhat respectable, because right now it is not anywhere respectable. And my feelings are this Time Magazine article and all its issues are an indictment on the WNBA. And where it's at as a league, there's no winning. The only way you're going to win is if you just, kowtow to the people that have made this league irrelevant. People like Asia Wilson, who have been the ones to have a lot of the success and are just completely unlikable, off-putting. Brianna Stewart, unlikable, off-putting. Diana Taurasi, unlikable, off-putting. I go on and on down the line. But I really don't want to, because I really don't care about this league. I care about Caitlin Clark. And like I said, she's put herself in a very precarious situation. She, tried to play both sides of the street and wound up pissing off both sides of the street. And like I said, that's the fact. I gave my feelings, which were, she was trying to do this and probably shouldn't have. And man, it's been a rough few days, because she has gotten it from everybody. And of course, doing these interviews with the interview she did, I think they responded to Megyn Kelly, who's amazing, does an amazing job, is able to really drive points home in a good way, or in a way that really makes sense. She tried to respond to that, it just came across bad. There's a big CNN discussion about this with Carrie Champion, of all people. Yeah, remember her? I think I've heard that name before. Oh, yeah, she was on ESPN. What do you know? She's hosting a show on CNN, which I didn't think you could go backwards from ESPN, but you can, apparently. She did. She went to CNN, and I guess in the last few days before Zuckerberg, good Lord. Zuckerberg's actually come around in a way I never thought he would. But before Elon Musk buys them, I know he's probably going to buy MSNBC. He'll probably wind up buying CNN too. And, but yeah, they had a panel discussion. There's a guy on there, Scott Jennings, who just came out and said it, while Carrie Champion's like, no, that's wrong, interrupting him, trying to cut him off while he's saying, anytime somebody says my truth, which Caitlin Clark said in this interview, which kind of responded to Megyn Kelly. And he said, there's no such thing as my truth. There's the truth. And like I said, I admit that. I'm admitting that. Like I said, that first video I did, that was my feelings. And I'm not stepping back from them. I'm not backtracking, but, that's not my truth. That's my feelings. The truth is she's getting destroyed. And this article is a disaster for her. But, even he came out and said, they keep talking about, this was built on the back of, black women. It's like, what have they built? They haven't built anything. They built a league that for 27 years has never made money. And of course, Kerry James is like, well, it's still there after all this time. And, well, it's still there just because of the money being footed by the NBA. We don't know who's made those decisions behind the scenes, what color, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, religion, anything like that. So nothing's been built. The WNBA continues to be a monument to failure. And quite honestly, Caitlin Clark's arrival is showing a light on just how bad of a league they are. And that's why they hate her. Well, that's not why they hate her, but the fact they hate her is showing a big light on that. And bad times all around. So yeah, Sheila Johnson is the next one up, I guess, as far as Caitlin Clark antagonists who do not like the fact she's bringing attention to the league. So the WNBA, folks, the WNBA. You got your Kim Jong Un looking leaders and a very bad product and a very good transitional player who is stuck between a rock and a hard place trying to tap dance on landmines and getting blown up every 10 seconds. So thank you for watching. And will the WNBA ever improve? I doubt it. Take care.